Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all well. I'm just carrying on with my Roxy's Journal of Stitchery down the garden path. And I mentioned in my last video that I might like to do a little bit of paint effect in the greenery. And so I've been playing around. I haven't done this before. And I wanted it like a watercolor effect rather than a paint effect. And this is what I've ended up doing. And I'm quite happy with how this is looking. I've only done this section of it so far. And what I'm using is my Inktense watercolor pencils. Now, I've had these for years. And I very rarely use them. They're sort of put away with art stuff that one day will get used. When I got them, I thought, they're very bright, you know, Inktense. I never knew what I was doing. But when I decided I wanted to add a bit of paint, I started looking on YouTube, painting on fabric. And, you know, a lot of them I didn't like the look of. They weren't what I was going. I really wanted it just barely there. And then I came across a couple of channels that were using Inktense pencils. And I was rather taken with the way it looked. So I'll put those in the description box below, the couple of videos that I watched before trying it myself. It's not perfect, but it's a start. And I just thought I would share with you how I'm getting this look. And I know there's some bleeding there, but I'm okay with that because that gives that watercolor effect. And you have to remember, there will be other things on this as time goes by. So here we go. I'll just fold that over. And there is bleeding onto the back as well. But like I said before, I am going to cover the back of mine, so that's fine. So we might just start over here. I have a piece of cardboard underneath this. This is actually, it's a project board I made when I was doing a Circle of Friends block. I used these to put my blocks on, and that way I could just stack them up as I was working on them. But on the other side, it's perfect for doing this. So starting here, I haven't done any more embroidery yet because I wanted to get a bit of watercolor down. So there are two colors, I think there's two, in here. I did this when I first got them, that I've been using. This olive green color, I don't know if it's got a color on it. What does it say? Leaf green. I'm using that one. And I did use a little bit of this one as well, which is apple green. Yeah, I think that's all I've used. So let's start with those. And there is drying time. You have to allow for drying time. And all I've got is this brush. It's just like that. And a little bit of water. You don't need a lot of water to do this. So I'm going to start, I'll probably start here in this corner. And what I was doing was, I got to remember because I did this a couple of days ago, and then I've been working on a journal, and then I worked on my vintage sewing and all over the place at the moment, plus living life. My son is back to driving again now, so that's good. His foot's all healed nicely, just has to be, you know, cautious for the next few weeks, not to do anything silly like teenage boys can do. So what I'm doing is, I'm just thinking, with the olive, the leaf green, I'm just flicking it up like that. in between and I can go quite tall here because, you know, everything will be bigger up here. So I'm just doing that, and it doesn't have to be neat and tidy or anything like that. Now, as I get to this part that's more visible, I'm going along the edge of the lace like that and just putting some on the edge of the lace, and then I'll do smaller bits like that. And it really doesn't look like much has been done. It looks a bit fuller, of course. Okay, so that's how I start. Let's hope this goes all according to plan. I'm just dipping my brush in some water. I don't want that bleeding onto the white there, if I can help it. And as soon as I add the water, it gets a lot darker, but the more water I add, the more of a watery colour effect I will get. And I basically just play around with it. I can soften it a bit by adding a bit more water. But once it's dried, you can't really do a lot with it because it's ink. It's not a normal watercolor pencil, it's ink. So once it's dried, that's when I can add other colors on top of it if I want to. That's the beauty about using it on fabric. You know, they're not going to all blend together. They will if it's still fairly dry. Like over here, you can see I've added the lighter color and it's gone together, which is what I wanted it to do. And I'm no expert on this. This is just what I've learnt as I'm going along, and from what these ladies said. So you fairly saturate it, and it kind of fills up the gaps a bit too. And I thought I should have really done it before I did any stitching. But, you know, it's better now than before I do any more stitching. So to me, it's like I'm adding some depth to the foliage of the piece. I'll just do this little section here. I don't want any like harsh lines, like I said, you know, I'm going for that soft water color effect. Sometimes you have to give it a bit of a rub to activate it a little bit more. Okay, we'll stop there, and then, as I said before, that I'm not sure if that's still too damp, but towards the front here I added a bit of this lime apple green, which is much lighter. Whoops, almost dipped it in my coffee. That wouldn't be very good. And just to, you know, so it's not all the same color. And because this piece here is closer, it will have a lighter colour. And this dries much lighter than what it is now, as you can see from the piece I showed you that I'd already done. Okay, so that's with the other colour added there. And I could, you know, just do the occasional little bit down there, but not all over. Like that. And then what I did was I took my darker colour and I've wet the end of the pencil like that. And then I go back and just dab it along the edge of the path like that, and it will make it quite a lot darker. And I don't dilute that little bit. It does, you know, because the piece is already wet from what I've been doing, it dilutes to a certain degree, but see how it kind of makes it look deeper at the base of the foliage. Like that. Okay. So that's what I'm doing, and although that looks quite green there now, it's going to have more embroidery, and I'm sure that will lighten. Did I just put a mark on there? As it dries as well. So I just thought I'd share that with you, and now I'm going to go ahead and, because see, there you go, see how there's a contrast. See, that's what it looks like now, but it'll look more like this once it's dry. And it does take a while to dry. I will continue doing the part that I haven't done, this part here, and then I'll let that dry for the rest of the day so that it's completely dry before I do any stitching and things like that. And I thought, you know, I could probably do something like that on the path as well, just to give that, you know, I won't say cobblestone, but that stone path look. But as I was looking, this lace tends to make it look like a stone path anyway. So I'll play with that as I go. So I hope you found that little part interesting, and I'll be back once this is dried. So I just want to show you before it dries. This part here is starting to dry, and it's starting to soften a little bit. This part here is still quite wet and quite dark, but it'll give you an idea that once it's all dry, how different it will look. So like that and like that. I mean, I quite like the way it looks when it's dark. So, but I guess it's the sort of thing you can go over if you want to go over as well. So I hope you found that interesting. I'm going to put this aside now so it can dry nicely, and I'll play again with it probably either later this afternoon or tomorrow. So take care, everybody. Bye.